know that Heroes is getting into the season when Claire starts distrusting HRG again. You know, I think this is one of the storylines of the series that bothers me the most. It seems they can never come up with any new drama for the two characters, and so they wind up throwing around the distrust again. Every single season so far has dealt with this, and it's getting old really quickly. Actually, it got old midway through the second season, but we'll just ignore that little fact for time's sake. This episode wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't great either. I think the biggest thing for this episode was the Haitian's return, and is it just me, or did Claire actually call the Haitian by a name? I didn't catch what she said, but it certainly sounded like a name. I don't think I like that. I loved how he was just known as the Haitian, and carrying and placing a name to his face seems wrong, unless they've already done that, but I don't think they have. But even if they did, and especially if they ever did, I feel really bad for him. No one seems to care enough to know his actual name for the majority of the series. They don't even care if he's in the same room. But on another note, the Peter-Emma storyline just seemed pointless and dull. Peter's one of my favorite characters, and his scenes are usually enjoyable, and I like Emma. But it wasn't interesting. Peter's floundering powers seemed to be a pointless plot device, and nothing ever happened in the long run. It seemed like a filler for those two. The Siler Matt stuff was cool, but I'm ready to move on. We've been trapped in this storyline for a long time, and it's getting redundant. Let's take another leap away and get away from this control battle. It's getting rather similar to Nikki and Jessica. Siler's awesome, but this isn't too interesting after the 9th episode. Samuel is quickly rising to the top of my list of favorite characters, and I really hope they don't ditch him like they did to Adam and Roe, Elle, Zanko, etc. He's a refreshing change from Siler, who we know is the baddie, even though they keep trying to prove otherwise at times. A change from Siler to a character who we're not quite sure what his motivations are, other than the obvious. I feel as though I should be watching the slow burn episodes because in the mini promos they show between commercials, Lydia and Edgar were discussing ways to overthrow Samuel or something along the lines of that. I think I should be watching it, but I can't bring myself to do so. I'm really disappointed that there were no repercussions in terms of the last episode, Once Upon a Time in Texas, what with Hero meddling in time and whatnot. I didn't think they would do anything, but it was still a bit of a letdown when they didn't show any changes. I don't believe you can mess with time, even something as inconsequential as that, even though it's not inconsequential, but even something small like spilling a slushie that should have had more results than that. Claude was mentioned in this episode very briefly. I'd even hoped at one point that they would show him in the little flashback. Alas, this was not so, but there's always hope. I still don't see a strong storyline for this season. There's always been something that's happening, and now all that's going on is a bunch of individual storylines weaving their own webs around a carnival. I'm not incredibly torn up by Mohinder's absence, although next week he'll be back. But I do miss the voiceovers. I'd really take anyone doing them at this point. The episode's endings feel very sudden and very sloppy without them. I'm eager for next week's episode more than I was the one last night. This episode probably scores about a 6 or a 7 out of 10. It was just sort of dull. I contemplated taking my chances and skipping out on the rest of the episode and catching up next week. But it wasn't bad. It definitely wasn't great, though. It seems they can't stay consistent, which is really sort of worrisome. Next week should be interesting, though.